Hi everyone, my name's Michelle and I'm Mama Loves You GB here on FlossTube. Welcome along to the morning briefing. It is Sunday the 7th of March 2021. I can't believe we're in March already. I think I've said that like every month this year. It just seems to be whipping through at the moment, which in some ways it's good. I have officially had enough of teaching from home. You'll see from this week my stitching has been all over the place. I have had the attention span of a 4-year-old high on M&Ms. I've whipped from one thing to the other. If you're hoping that this video is going to show some continuity from last video, it doesn't. I don't think I've stitched on anything. In fact, the one thing I've stitched on was the thing I mentioned last week and not actually showed. So it's going to be a completely different bag this week compared to last week. It's just been... I've done all sorts of weird things this week. I've posted work on the wrong classroom. I've missed, well, I haven't missed a live lesson. I posted it at the wrong time and then had to unpost it again. I thought I've replied to people and I haven't replied to people. I thought I've sent emails and I haven't sent emails. My brain has been on holiday this week. I just don't know what's been going on, but I think it's signifying to me that I am ready to go back to work and be in a place where I can just focus on work. So we've got our 11s, 12s and 13s starting back on the 15th of March. So and then after Easter, who knows, but hopefully a few more. So that was just a complete download. So apologies to those of you who are joining me from the first time. I don't just sit and moan about my work and about lockdown, but I obviously needed to get that off my chest. So welcome along, as I said. If this is your first video with me, or this is FlossTube number 20, plus there was all the ones at Christmas, so we must be getting on for nearly 50 actual videos, which is just crazy to me. So welcome along. I just need to do, before we get going, just a couple of admin bits. First of all, the videos, the giveaway winners last week, the majority of them have been in contact, which is great. I'm really sorry to the ones that I'm supposed to be posting out. I've just not been to the post office this week. I've got them all ready to go, but I just haven't been to the post office, so I'm really sorry, but I'll try and get there first thing on Monday. I haven't heard from Keely Evans, who won House on Pumpkin Hill, which is one of the charts that's coming from me. I haven't heard from her, so Keely, if you can get in touch with me by the next video, that would be great. And the other one I haven't heard from is a lady called Shirley Moore, who won one of the Northumberland Sampler House PDFs, Emma. So if you can get in touch with me on that, or if you've already, guys, if you've already got in touch with me and I've not replied to you, because that could be an option this week, then please message me again, and I'll get things sorted for you. One of the questions I asked on my last FlossTube actually was about aughts and where's the craziest place you found them. So aughts, old raggedy threads, old random threads, you know, the bits that you kind of cut off and then you either put them somewhere or they disappear off into the ether and you find them somewhere. So I made a list of some of the places that people have found them. The first one, and a couple of people said they found them in their bra. Somebody's found them in their bed, in their kids' toys, in the bird's nest outside, in their husband's shoe. Was it attached to a needle? Was it some kind of funny prank? Just, you know, whack a needle in there as well. What had he done wrong? On a hairbrush, in your knickers, coming out of the cat's bottom. I think 2 people said that they found them coming out of the cat's bottom. So, gosh, obviously, yeah. And tomato plants as well, hidden in the tomato plants. And the thing that I found even funnier was that most people actually told me what colour it was. That they found. The one that was found in the tomato plants was 310. The cat's bottom people, neither of them said. So I think we can all be grateful that they didn't tell us what colour it was. Presumably they knew what colour it might have been when it went in, but it certainly wouldn't have been the same colour on the way out. We'll leave that there. The other thing that made me laugh is lots of people have mentioned to me about that they found the bit about the dyeing versus dyeing on my videos funny, and actually on the dyeing video a couple of people called me the Martha Stewart of FlossTube. Now I'm really hoping that, you know, bearing in mind my comments about dyeing versus dyeing, I'm hoping that they're thinking that I'm the Martha Stewart of FlossTube because I've got, you know, range of crafting activities giving inspiration, rather than the fact that she went to prison. Yeah, we don't want that. Although, a bit of peace and quiet, 3 square meals a day. I might take it for a couple of weeks at the minute. Right, FlossTubers. I've watched quite a few FlossTubers this week. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown just in case you're looking for people to watch. Handwork Maniac Brenda, I caught up with her and all her new bits and bobs that she's doing. I admire her so much because she just returns back to the same projects, and she's got this great way of sorting out mania, Stitch Mania. Is that the project she starts in Stitch Mania, she then identifies to a particular month afterwards, and then she gets it finished in that month, and I think, oh, that's genius. That's a good way of doing it. So if you're looking for mania suggestions, have a look at her videos and just sort of pick up on the way that she approaches mania, because it's a brilliant idea. Debbie from Creatively Yours. Debbie, I'm so glad we got that bag, that it wasn't just sort of making its way around most of Europe for the rest of its life. I'm so glad it turned up. Gable Stitcher, made by Michelle McGraw. Colette the Highway Stitcher was back on again. She's another really good one for longevity in projects and keeping on at them, which is something I've really admired this week because it's not something that I've been able to achieve. Amy Loves Toads had a new one, and somebody I forgot to mention last week or the week before was the Schoolhouse Stitcher or Schoolhouse Stitcher. Now, I've never watched her before, but she did a really lovely long video all about her finishes and her stitching, and I got the impression that she'd not done many videos last year but had previously done quite a few, so I haven't gone back and backtracked and watched any more of her videos, but so many beautiful projects, lots and lots of blackbird and samplers, and just amazing. So I think that's me caught up. Let's have a look at some stitching. So the first thing I want to show you is a kind of a new project that I'm starting. I've just got to work out where to put them. Here they are. Now, one thing that has always really interested me, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this on camera, but my lighting keeps changing, but we'll see. One thing that's always really interested me, and they don't come up very often, is the idea of unfinished samplers. Because quite often they're associated with a really amazing story as to why they might be unfinished, a sad story as to why they might be unfinished. And there's one actually on eBay at the moment, but they want about £700 for it, and it's about a girl who started it and she choked on a lobster shell while she was stitching. I shouldn't laugh really, but if you go onto eBay and have a look at this unfinished sampler and read the story, it's totally incredible. And you might think, oh, lobster? Really? What was she doing eating lobster? There used to be a workhouse in St Dogmaels actually, and the story goes that the residents, the inmates, I don't know what you really call them, of the workhouse used to look forward to Fridays because they didn't have to have lobster on Friday. So lobster used to be a really common food, particularly in coastal areas. It wasn't always like the luxury food that we think of. Anyway, I digress. So I've always been a bit of a fan of unfinished samplers. As I said, sometimes because they have a sad but interesting story. Other times because you get the impression that the girl that's stitching it has just gone, nah, bugger it, and left it and gone off to do something else. And that kind of appeals to me. It appeals to me that they've gone, nah, I'm just going to do something more interesting. Or start something else, which appeals to me greatly. Sorry if you can see my finger waving about it, it's got a plaster with a crab on it. Small incident this afternoon making pineapple glazed donuts. Anyway, I digress again. So the other thing is that I'm aware of the fact that even if it's a great many years down the line, there is a very strong chance that I'm going to shuffle off this mortal coil with unfinished projects, unless I live to be 407, in which case I might finish them all if I stop buying things tomorrow. So I'm going to have unfinished projects as well, and it just strikes me as what's going to happen to them. So I bought one, and this is it. Whoops. And this is the start of my new series. It's going to be free, and it's called the Unfinished Sampler series. Now this one is stitched on a very, very fine piece of linen, and I've measured it up and I think it's about a 46 count, and it's stitched with a very, very, it does look black, but it's actually, if you catch it in the right light, a very, very dark blue, like an inky black. Then it probably is a black, but you can catch it as a slight blue. And so I bought this from eBay, and I'd seen it on there a few times, and it always caught my attention every time. And it's obviously the start of like a little marking sampler or a little spot motif sampler or something like that. And somebody's gone, nah, not finishing that. And so I bought it, I bought her, and ever since she's arrived, I've referred to her as Maude. And I didn't really know why until I've officially decided to call her Maude. And the reason, I think, is because of our lovely friend Laura, the serial starter. Her Instagram name has got Maude in it. And as a serial starter, it just kind of all clicked together. So what I have done, and as I said, this is going to be free if you want to join in, is I have charted, whoops, and I will link the file to this episode. I have charted the Unfinished Sampler. So this is going to be the Unfinished Sampler series, and this is going to be number 1, Maude. And I like the fact that they're going out into the world having a name, even though they didn't have one, and you can put whatever you like on it, but I like the fact that I'm sending them out with a name. So this is the first one. Now I have stitched this on a piece of 36 count oaken by Picture This Plus, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish it. And if you want to join me on the Unfinished Sampler series, then please do. I am going to use, well, I've got some motifs in mind from some sampler charts that I've already got that I really like, perhaps where I don't want to stitch the whole thing, or perhaps it's just a motif that I really, really like. But I don't know if you saw last week, I bought the Brenda Keyes Ultimate Sampler Motifs book. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish mine sort of more as a spot sampler, a spot motif sampler, and I'm going to choose some motifs to fill the bottom. Now if you look at samplers, they do all sorts of things. They fill them with a massive butterfly and a tiny chair, a little dog and a massive house. You can do what you like in this bottom bit, and I'm really looking forward to that freedom of just doing what I like. And if I want to put on there doesn't fit, I'll make it fit. I'm really keen on putting wrought by Michelle Badley aged 41 on there like you would see on a sort of a child sampler. So the space that you've got, if you want to join me on this, the space that you've got there is about 52 stitches by 150 if I remember correctly. And then you've just got this little ampersand in the corner. Now if you wanted to, you could make it longer, you could add a box onto the bottom, you could do whatever you like with it. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to finish the first Unfinished Sampler. So Maude, I'm going to finish her. If you haven't got this book already, you don't need it. You can go onto Google Images, and there's lots of free images of sampler motifs that you can find legally. But as I said, there might be things from samplers that you've got that you want to take inspiration from, or you could finish it as a marking sampler and finish it with other alphabets and numbers. You can do whatever you like with it. So as I said, this is going to be the Unfinished Sampler series, and I do have another one, and this is the second one, which I'm just in the process of charting. So this is actually a very, very dark green border, and then much, much paler ghost ghost lettering there on the actual linen. Now this girl, I'm not sure, I'm saying girl, some of them are done by boys obviously, but the vast majority are done by girls. This girl has got stitches that go one way and stitches that go the other way. She's got bits of funny gaps and all sorts, so really you can do whatever you want. And I don't know why, but I see this one with a house on the bottom, so that's what I might end up doing. So I'll get around to charting this one, and in a few weeks or a month or so I'll release this one as the second in the Unfinished Sampler series. So if you've got a name, if a name springs to mind to you that we can send this one out into the world with, then put in the comments below and I'll pick a name. Now the other thing that came with that, because I bought two from the same lady, this one isn't an unfinished one, this is a finished one, which I probably will chart, and again I'll just put on as a free file if anybody wants to stitch it. And it was this one, and I picked this one because I loved the words on it. Good bit of sort of gloom and doom here. So it says, meekness is wisdom, grace is the cure for sin, nothing is gained by sin. And I really like that one. And actually when I bought it, I thought it was black. But when it arrived, it's actually a very, very dark purple. And I was having a look around trying to find a colour that I might sew this in to reproduce it. And I'm looking at an NPI 106. It's it's a very dark pansy purple. It's about the only one I can find that's really, really super dark purple. And the other thing that I'm looking forward to doing is actually to frame the unfinished samplers with my finished one. And once I've charted this one, to frame it next to my modern stitch. So super looking forward to doing that. Not thinking about getting them and releasing them as any sort of paid for chart, but I will put them attached to these videos if you want them. Now, my stitching, what have I been doing this week? First thing I'm going to show you is a very near FFO, and this is to celebrate the fact that Puntini charts have finally landed at Patchwork Rabbit. They've been waiting them, I know, for quite a while, and you guys have been really excited about getting your hands on them. So the reason I'm going to show you this is a near finish is because this is what I'm going to do with it, but it's not quite right. So I said to you that I had a finishing idea for these, and I was just waiting on something being made. Well, I've got the thing that was made. Now the only difficulty is I'm just going to have to hold it in place because, I'll show you, hopefully you can see. So this is what I was having made. A beautiful big spool made in ash. I can just whip that off there. Beautiful big spool made in ash by a local woodturner. The difficulty is, or the problem was, is that I asked for it to be 4 inches, not including the top and bottom lip, and he made it 4 inches including the top and bottom lip. So when I got it home and measured it, this one, January, just fits. But February and March are 3 stitches bigger, I think, 3 stitches taller, so it won't fit. And I want it to be interchangeable, I want to be able to switch them out. So I messaged him and I said, oh, you know, it's not quite big enough. I did ask for 4 inches without the top and the bottom. And he's like, oh, no worries, I'll take that one back and then I'll make you a new one. I was like, no, there's no need to take this one back, just make a new one. So I'm pretty sure I will have something which will fit on my beautiful ash spool sooner rather than later. So yeah, I just wanted to show you that. I was hoping to show it all finished off, but just to celebrate the Patchwork Rabbit getting their charts in, I wanted to show it to you today. So fingers crossed, he's back working now. He had a bit of a problem with his back, so fingers crossed, shouldn't be too much longer, and I'll get my second spool and I'll finish it up and all will be good with the world. Right, I'm looking around because I'm a bit bit wah today. Right. I don't need those. Okay. What have I been actually working on? So I started, this is the one I mentioned to you last week, the Drawn Thread Welcome Spring. Now I bought this from the Nimble Thimble as a kit when I went to see Chris, so everything came as a kit. It came much more neatly attached with all the called for MPIs and dinky dies. Oh, they're so nice to stitch with. Oh, my goodness me. And it came with the called for fabric, which is a 30 count antique lambswool. And when I read the instructions for the chart, it said to use 1 strand over 2 on 30 count. That's going to be really, really sparse. But actually it's lovely. Because the silk threads, it's really nice. And this is where I've got to. So I think when I mentioned it last week, and I said I'd started it, but I didn't have it to show you, I'd done the outline of the letters E and L. So I've done quite a bit on this week. The only change I've made is this dark green thread here. The dark green here on the card is darker than the green that you use for the lettering. But when you put them next to each other, it didn't show up. And one of the things that really attracted me to the chart was that really much darker green. So I actually ended up using, for the darker green, a sulky, because I wanted something that I could use 1 strand on and achieve a similar sort of coverage. So the dark green is the sulky and everything else is in the called for silks. So I can't wait to finish that off. I haven't got a lot of spring stuff really. Spring doesn't tend to be my sort of colourway, but I really like this and I'm looking forward to getting it finished. So I worked on that, and then I decided, as you do, I was going to start something else. And this little fox has been on my mind ever since I ordered him really. That fox there. And so I decided to start this kit. So because last weekend we had some nice weather, I decided to dye the fabric, which is what I was always going to do. I walnut dyed it and I left it outside to hang up to dry. Now we're going to look at 2 things to do with this. First of all, we'll look at the stitching, and then we'll look at the fabric, and then we'll have a cautionary tale. Okay, so there's my fox. He is glorious. He is coming out so well, and I really like the fabric. Can anyone see what happened to the fabric? So this is where you have to be really careful, folks, when you're drying fabric. I put it on the line. It was quite breezy. Let me hold it up so the proper way so you can see what happened. And then when I wasn't really paying much attention, it did that on the washing line. So you can see that the way that the dye has settled out, because it wasn't hanging straight on the washing line, has given me these big lines. Now initially when I first took it down and ironed it, I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to find another piece and dye another piece. But what I did was I measured where the design actually sits, and that's the fox's face, and then the wreath is actually quite thick and it comes all the way round there. So once the wreath is on, and I will be framing it probably circularly, probably just in a hoop, once the frame is on, I don't think that you will notice those great big lines. So just a cautionary tale for you and your dyeing. If you leave it to dye resting on anything, then you can get the dye to separate out. And also if you don't peg it out properly, then if it creases on the line, you can get a bit of an issue as well. But it'll be fine. But let's just look at that fox again. How lovely does that fox look? It's stitching up so nicely. So I can highly recommend that Panna kit. Then what else did I do? What else did I do? Oh, I had a an online meeting, but it was only for an hour. So I got a little bit more done on my Autumn Witch, which I'm hoping to get finished this month as my monthly Orny sal, but we'll see. By Brooks Books. If I don't get this one finished this month, I might just whip out one of the very small little sleds. We shall see. Go back in. And then I disappeared down a bit of a rabbit hole, and it was Lauren from Flossability's fault. I watched Lauren's video for the first time because on Monday night I started a UK Stitchers Conga on Instagram, and the basic premise of it was that I tagged a few people who I knew were UK Stitchers, and then that just set the ball rolling. They then tagged other UK Stitchers, and so we all got to find out, and we all got to find lots and lots of new influence, the people who are in the UK, who have got the access to the same sort of stuff that we've got, who might, you know, we might want to see their stitching. And the other thing I got people to do is if they knew that that person had a FlossTube, just to put FT next to it. And so I learnt about Lauren's Flossabilities, and she is a full coverage stitcher. Now, I've said before, I will watch any type of stitching. It doesn't matter if they don't necessarily do the same type of stitching as me. I just like hearing people talking about stitching. And she's obviously doing full coverage. She's doing 3 beautiful full coverage pieces that she bought from Pain Free Crafts. And then I disappeared down a bit of a rabbit hole on Pain Free Crafts. I didn't buy anything. Because I do have full coverage pieces, and so I thought I would get one of those back out. And I got out from Gecko Rouge my Athena, and I have to put a picture up here because I haven't got the front cover. Now, Athena is the goddess of craft, actually, amongst other things, and I've loved this for a long time, and I started it as Monogamania 2 years ago, and I haven't touched it since. I did this time around purchase, I went back to Gecko Rouge with my order number, and if you've already purchased a kit, you can buy the PDF, which is will go on Pattern Keeper for £5. So I did. I went and bought the PDF with my kit order number for a £5, and I got quite a bit more done. Now, I'm stitching this on a 36 count fabric flare in light grey because I am not stitching the background. Not a chance. And there she is. So I had all this yellow done and sort of a little bit of this black here, the start of her fancy hat. And I've done this in the top corner here. So I said this is 36 count. The reason I'm doing it on 36 count is because I need to be able to use the sewing method, and I find the sewing method really difficult on Ada. I find my stitches slip under. And this was then the problem that I was having, because I was seeing Lauren doing all this beautiful work on 25 count. So I was like, right, well, I want to have a go at that. And I had a couple of other Pattern Keeper pieces, full coverage, that I wanted to try. One of them is Mr. Cardinal, which I'll put a picture up there, and I'll have to put the name of the company because it escapes me at the moment. So I really want to do this Mr. Cardinal. So I started, I thought, right, well, I've got some 25 count easy guide. Didn't like it on 25 count. I thought, I've got some 28 count easy guide. Had a go on that. And that's 28 count on easy guide. So I started it. And my stitches were still slipping under because I can't do the sewing method on it. And I was like, I don't want to put it in a frame. I don't want to do the two-handed. I don't want to do the punch and pull. If I need to do full coverage, it's going to have to be the sewing method. And so I went back to Athena. I thought, well, Athena's on 36 count, and I really like her. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I will start Mr. Cardinal on. Actually, on the other piece that I bought for Athena, I bought a dark grey piece and a light grey piece, and ended up doing it on the light grey. It doesn't matter, you won't see it. I digress again. So I started it on that. this stitching took me a quarter of the time of this. I know there's a tiny bit more green, but there's more black on this one, so percent-wise they're about the same. So I think I'm going to carry on the 36 count, although it's big. It's going to be big. Ideally I'd like it smaller, so if anybody can recommend to me something I can stitch on, that I can do the sewing method on, that's good for full coverage, where my stitches aren't going to slip under, then pipe up down below. I'm keen to hear. I'm keen to hear. Last week I had no plans of doing full coverage, although Athena has been bobbling around in the back of my mind for a little while. For the last 2 or 3 weeks she's been, I haven't touched her for 2 years nearly, and she's been bobbling around in the back of my mind. So we shall see. So yeah, that sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole as well this week. So if you're full coverage stitcher, feel free to give me advice, because yeah, I need it. Okay, freebies and another giveaway actually I've got. So let's do the giveaway first. Let me just grab my book so I make sure I get all of the details correct. So lovely lady called Heather, who is the owner of Woolly Woolly Sheep, contacted me on one day last week I think it was, and she was releasing a new chart, a PDF, and she said would I like to give away a copy to my subscribers. I was like, yeah, definitely. So this is the chart. Really nice kind of positive message for now, and a bit summary as well. So it says a rising tide lifts all ships, and as I said, it's by Woolly Woolly Sheep, and they are on Etsy. Heather's YouTube channel is also called Woolly Woolly Sheep, and her Etsy shop, as I said, and her Instagram is also called Woolly Woolly Sheep. So the whole thing, go there, see what you can find. So if anybody would like to win a PDF of this chart, then all you have to do is include the word, I'm going to go for one that might be slightly more off the wall this time rather than an easy word that half of America used in their comments, ship. So I'm going to search for the word ship, S-H-I-P. So please be a subscriber, please be over 18 so I can have your email address, please don't say giveaway or freebie or whatever. And I will draw the winner next week, so just 1 week for this one. So a rising tide lifts all ships. So please go and take a look at Heather and her Instagram and her FlossTube and her Etsy shop, because you might find something else that you like. Okay, freebies. I've got 2 freebies this week. The first one I've got was sent to me by a lovely lady called Ali, and it turns out that Ali is the person who sent me the Modern Folk Embroidery one last week, who reminded me about the Modern Folk Embroidery, whose message I couldn't find. So I said, right, I'm definitely going to show this one tonight, and I'm going to thank you for both. So this one is by Notforgotten Farm, and it's a little shamrock basket freebie. Now I've seen a couple of people stitching this on Instagram recently, so you might have seen it as well and maybe not realised that it was a freebie. So I will put the link for this one down below. And then the other one, going back to Melissa from Punkin Blogspot, oh, I find that so hard to say, it's called Erin You, and we do love our little cups with things sat in the top of them, and I know I've shown quite a few of hers in that style before, but it's a sheep with shamrocks sat in an Irish hat. So how cool is that? It is quite small, it's like 34 by 34, so if you're really wanting something nice and quick for a bit of St Patrick's Day to go with the Guinness. Yeah, it's a shame because it would be Cheltenham Races that week as well. Cheltenham Races, the Gold Cup's normally the same week as St Patrick's Day, so Cheltenham is normally filled with the Irish at that time. But obviously it's not on, understandably, for a very good reason. And yeah, they were a bit naughty last time. They just sneaked a big meeting in In fact, it might have even been the Gold Cup meeting this time last year that they just sneaked in before the big shutdown. Anyway, we'll leave that hanging there. Right, the only thing I've got left to do is just a little bit of haul. Some of it is unintentional haul. Yes, I can have unintentional haul. Now, the reason this is unintentional is because I actually didn't expect to be able to get it. So I dyed this piece of fabric for, oh, it's showing a bit more purpley tonight, that's better. Let's get the whole thing out and excuse the creases. So if you've watched my dyeing video, this is one of the pieces of fabric that I dyed, and it's actually showing a better colour than it was in the video that I actually tried to show it to you in. And it's for the Blue Flower Huckleberry Farm. And I even said, I think in the dyeing video, that I was going to start it for my birthday in July because it would probably take me till July to get the threads. Well, I went onto Peakside Needleworks, and I must have just hit Peakside Needleworks just pretty much straight after a delivery, because they literally had every single one, I think bar 2, of the week's dye works. I haven't put these on a ring yet, so of the week's dye works, and there is a yellow one in the middle there. And then I grabbed the required DMC as well, and I did and ah, because I thought, well, I don't really want to start it anytime soon, but if I don't get the fabric, if I don't get the threads now when I see them, you know, they must have just had a delivery, I'll be looking for them again. So I got them, and now I'm thinking about starting it on Mother's Day maybe instead, which is in the UK is next week. And because it can't travel alone, it's very bad for it to travel alone, I picked up C.C. Smith, the Dutch sampler, and I also picked up a piece of 40 count birch by Zweigart, and this is a most beautiful just sampler colour. Now what I've done, just because they were hanging around, let's see if I can do this without taking them out of the bag. Because I've got birch, I've actually got light mocha and cafe au lait as well. That's going to be too reflective. And I thought, I didn't buy these this time, I bought these ages ago. I thought, seeing as I had them all together, I would just show you, because sometimes it's really hard to tell on the screen, isn't it? So, let's see if I can remember now. So, this is Cafe au Lait, which is the palest of the three. In the middle is birch, and then on the outside there is the light mocha. So, just to show you the difference, they're very similar, but they do have a slight difference. This one's obviously, the birch looks a little more yellowy green maybe, but they're all beautiful. They're all beautiful. The reason I've got the other two to hand is because they were my choices for starting Anne Grimshaw. And I'm not sure I'm going to start Anne Grimshaw just at the moment. I'd said that I wanted to do Anne Grimshaw on using Gentle Arts Blackboard. Now there's no Gentle Arts Blackboard around at the moment in the UK, and I know that the suppliers are waiting on shipments. But I did speak to one lady, Mary actually at Create Nostalgia, and she said that she had noticed that with the Gentle Arts threads that she's had most recently, sort of since the pandemic, there's been a lot more variation in colour. So before they always used to be pretty good, you know, you could order from, you know, successive shipments and you'd get a similar colour. And I had noticed that actually on one of my blackboards, it's got some real light bits in it. So I may change my mind on the blackboard and do a smaller sampler in the blackboard, because I just think there's going to be a bit too much variation for a little while. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It's just made me think twice, because Anne Grimshaw's so big, I'm probably going to need a good 15 skeins, and I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to get 15 skeins that are, you know, within this a good close range, and I don't want to start it and then have to reorder and then find that it's different. So it might be just worth waiting or choosing something else to stitch her with. I do have a whole hank of Silks for You black, so I might do that, which was my original plan. And it's taken me more than 12 months to come back to my original plan. The other thing, a couple of charts that I picked up, was Birds of a Feather Bird sampler, which I got from Jeff P. Smith on eBay, which he's listed below. And I also picked up another multiplication sampler, which isn't one that I knew it existed and I'd seen it, but it's not a common one. It's by Plum Street Samplers, and it's called the Vexation Sampler. And it says, multiplication is vexation, division is as bad as the rule of 3, doth puzzle me, and practice drives me mad. So I like that one. And then this is the last one that came up. And I saw this on Susie Reno's video. And Susie Reno does a brilliant video. I love watching her floss tubes. But she does a look through of all these sort of large samplers, small samplers, stitch pieces that she's got hanging up on a set of shelves. And I saw this one, and it was stitched in red. And it was beautiful. And I messaged her, I said, oh Susie, what is that? And she said, it's called When This You See by Marjorie Massey. And she even looked up, bless her, she even looked up a couple of shops that had it in stock, but obviously they were both in the States. Now, I don't know if you know, but Marjorie Massey has a Facebook group. And in her Facebook group, she has got pictures of all of her charts, all of her samplers. Now, if you want one, you just email her. And her email address, I will put, it's on the back of here, but obviously I just fold it. There's her email address there. I will put it down below. And all you do is email her, tell her which chart you want, either by name or they've all got like a code on them. This one's VS1. And she will tell you to send the money by PayPal, and then she will email you the chart. I found email better than Facebook Messenger. I tried Facebook Messenger first of all and I didn't get a response, and I bought from her before using email, so I tried email and then within 12 hours I had a response. So she speaks very good English, or she certainly writes very good English, and so no problem there. She just told me how much I needed to pay. I had to pay what was it, 10 euros? Yeah, I think it was 10 euros. She told me to pay in euros. When I went onto PayPal, PayPal knew that I would need to pay in euros, so I was able to fill in the euro section, and then it worked it out for me, and so I paid obviously in pounds, and it gave her the right amount in euros. So if you've been looking for some Marjorie Massey charts, they are harder to come by in the UK as printed copies, so if you could go that PDF route, definitely. I think it's everything for this week. I am hoping that next week is going to be a little bit clearer, both in my head and in my stitching. I can have not just be ping, 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 ping all the way around. And I hope that you have a really good stitchy week as well. Stay classy, stitchers.